Did you guys see that it's being recorded?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to the February 10th edition of the Resume Workshop. So one of the first things, order of the day, was to make sure that people were part of the screen that you're seeing, which is the Illinois Tech Career Services. Because if you're not part of this group, you're missing up on a lot of follow-up material. And Yi and Narendra can attest to the value of this. Before I proceed, Yi or Narendra, was there
Yes.
anything you want to share about what you're getting out of the Career Services group on LinkedIn?
I would like to go first, if you don't
Go
mind,
ahead.
Bernie.
Yeah.
Please.
After joining this Illinois Tech Career Services, I personally grew a lot by going through the resources, the Word document, the various technical skills, and I was able to improve my resume, and I'm getting a positive feedback from the recruiters right now. That's what I would like to mention here, because I recently attended the virtual career fair for the internship and full-time roles as I'm graduating in summer. And Bernie and Illinois Tech Career Services has been a support, and thank you so much for that. And of course, I'm waiting for the in-person career fair right now. Thank you so much. All right.
Yeah,
That's all I
you're
want
welcome.
to share.
Thank you for
Yep.
your testimonial and talking about the value. Yi, was there anything you wanted to add to that based on your short experience with the material so far?
Yeah, I think because at the first I just follow the template and I made my resume to like fill in the information of me. And after have a conversation with the career coach, and I start thinking about what I did and the accomplishment of my work. So I think it's really important to make me think of the result I did. Yeah. And
Very
show and stand out in my resume. Yeah.
Very nice, Yi. Thank you for sharing that. So what you guys are seeing on the screen right now is the LinkedIn group that we have out there. What everybody is talking about as far as the resources, and I'm going to scroll down to it really shortly, is right now it's on top, but you could also go to the recommended resources like so. And then in the recommended resources is this study guide index. When you click this, you have this Word document that Narendra is talking about. So this list is a collection of resources that have been follow-up material to students coming for career coaching sessions. So this material is available to you 24/7, and you can get to it because you're obviously busy students. So you get to the material when you want to. So for example, if I do a Control F right now and do a hashtag resume, you can find the material that talks about, we have 5 recordings of previous workshops. We have 5 case studies that you could check out. There's an old version, and then we have the improved version after the student came to us. So without further delay, I would like to go into our case study number 1, which is Yi's resume. So Yi, I'm going to share your old resume first, okay?
Yes, sir.
So for everybody, you get to see the resume that Yi came to us with. I'm going to scroll down slowly, and then I am going to talk about some resume design principles. Take a look at Yi's summary. She goes Master in Computer Science, Bachelor's in Mathematics with solid analysis. What Yi did in her summary is actually not unusual. And this is typically what students write about. She's just talking about, generalizations. And then she's saying that she has solid analysis and solving complex skills. She's listing down her education. She listed down skills. And then I want you to pay close attention to the way Yi originally worded her information. This is what I like to call describing the tasks at your internships or previous experiences versus calling out your results and accomplishments. Okay. I'm going to go back and forth with the resume design principles. And with that, I am going to hashtag resume, and I'm going to pick one of the case studies, which happens to be a case study by Ben, who is a freshman. But in the share, I'd like to talk about the resume design principles. The first checkbox that you see out there is job search is an art, which means it's not an exact science. It means there are best practices. And if there is a practice that works for you, do more of that. If there's a practice that doesn't work for you, try something else. Okay. That is used in tandem with the second check mark that you guys are seeing, in that it's saying that your resume, your LinkedIn, your cover letter, your job interview, your entire job search is totally your responsibility. So you make a call on how you want to best present yourself based on the information that's being given to you. And then the third check mark that you're seeing very well out there is what Yi kind of did with her previous resume. She followed the template very well. She tried to fill it out to the best of her ability. And one of the things that we'll learn during this call is that different students have different experience and different backgrounds. So the name of the game in job search is to stand out. If we presented the same format to everyone, that means we're not having you stand out. Based on the strengths of different backgrounds, that's how we move the fields that are in the template around so that we can best highlight it. I don't like going through lengths of time without anybody being able to check in. Were there any questions about anything I've said so far?
I do have a question. If you
Go ahead, Solomon.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
If you have experience in companies that aren't registered, like they're unregistered companies, like you can't see them on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's fine. Even if they're not on LinkedIn, if it's true experience and you obviously had this experience at a company, you would write it down. So even if they don't have a presence on LinkedIn, that's okay. Was that your question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you would list them down as you see it. I see that we have 7 attendees right now. Jen, welcome, and Larissa, thank you for joining us. Any other questions from Naveen, Narendra, or Yi from what I've said so far?
I'm good. I
No,
agree
it's
with you,
good.
Bernie.
Jen, you were going to say something?
Yes,
Jen?
Bernie, you asked me.
No. Jen had her mic clear, but she wasn't saying anything.
Oh, I thought I was unmuted. I'm muted. I'm so sorry.
Okay, good. If you get questions, feel free to jump in, okay? We just make this a conversation. It's very informal. Don't even need you guys to raise your hands or whatever. Feel free to interrupt me anytime, because this session is about you. I want to answer all of your questions. So thank you for asking that question,
Thank you.
Solomon. I'm going to
Sure.
go to the next part of the template, unless somebody else had a question. I want you guys to always think like the hiring manager. And this is usually where students, and actually not just students, job seekers in general, forget this. You should always be thinking from the hiring manager's standpoint. And the confusing part about resumes is that it's about us. So we think that we write a document that's totally about us. It's got to be very complete. It's got to be very accurate. But people forget that job search is all about relating to one person on the other side, or the reader of your resume, who will find you relevant to the job that they're hiring for, such that when they read your resume, they'd be like, okay, this resonates with what I'm looking for. Call them in for an interview. That's the whole point of a resume. This is actually quite loaded, what I just said out there. That's why you always need to think from the perspective of the reader versus you just sharing complete information about you and your experience to this date. Any comments about what I just said? No
That
comments?
is
Sounds like
absolutely. That's absolutely. I agree with you, Bernie, because that's what I went through in the past 2 days when I was having this virtual recruitment. So yes.
great. Thank you,
Yes,
Narendra.
yes, sir. Is it you have in the English you use, is it in past tense, everything in past tense, or you have to include him to the hiring manager in the resume? Or that's the use of the cover letter, which one?
You have to use past tense. Is that your question?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. So tense is actually a reflection of what the reality of it is. If you're currently in a job that you're performing, if it's an internship that's ongoing, then most likely your tenses are in the present. If it was something that was done in the past, then it's past tense.
All right.
Did I answer
Okay,
your question?
Yes, sir.
Naveen?
Yeah, I have a question. Like you said that, resume should be precise and we should build it with the perspective of a hiring manager since they have a very little time. But
Yes, you said two things though. You said precise. I did not say precise.
okay, since they have a little time, what should be the content of the cover letter? Because I feel that whatever is there in the resume is enough. Like it will be a replica of thing in the cover letter. Is cover letter actually much needed?
Very good question. Because this is a resume session, I'm not going to dwell too much on it. So, general rule of thumb for cover letter, there's two trains of thought. Some people say it's necessary, some people say it depends. Some companies require it, some companies don't. So, rule of thumb is if somebody does require it, you better make sure you submit one. If they do not require it, it's your call. And to the points as to what's going to be in the cover letter, when you do all the work in the resume, the stuff in the cover letter kind of like is easier. And a lot of people like to think of it as like a form letter. It's going to have these parts. I'm going to cover that. I'm going to park that question for a little bit in connection with the next point that we're trying to make in the design principles that you're seeing on the screen. Is that okay, Naveen?
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Other questions before I proceed, aside from Naveen's? Very good. So the last bullet that we spoke about was always think like a hiring manager, make it about them. The information has to be relevant to them. The reason I flagged you, Naveen, about the word precise, it's actually got to be relevant. I'd pick the word relevant. I'd pick relevance over being precise, if you want. All right. And we can talk about that some more. The next check says, imagine yourself as the hiring manager. See if the resume has a wow factor via accomplishments and results versus simple describing. The reason I bring this up is because of what I showed you earlier. What Yi did in her resume is very typical of what job seekers do. So take a look at what she has for assistant engineer. Number one, she even like calls out that it's a semiconductor automated system company. And then she starts describing the task. She said, simulate the client's environment and testing system. Develop a new report system in the company. She's simply describing the task. That's what I'm trying to bring out with this point that we have. Always wow them. So here's the thing about jobs if you describe tasks. Software engineer 1 has the same task as software engineer 2 is the same task as software engineer 10. If everybody just wrote their tasks on a resume, you're not doing yourselves any favor. You are not standing out. What differentiates one job seeker from the next is what they actually accomplished in the job. So if you truly want to stand out, instead of simply describing what you did in your experience, you should really be talking about what you accomplished, what your results were, and what the impact of your task was. That's loaded. I'm opening up for questions. Did that make sense?
Yes, sir. So my question is, if you did a project and the results you had aren't satisfying,
To
am I
whom?
still to
To
me,
whom?
like
To you?
to me, yes, like the required results I had, it's not what I expected. Like it failed, the project failed. Should I still include it in my resume? Or I
Okay,
should
good
just
question.
or
So,
should, or should I just include the paper or the project paper in a handshake?
so good question that you ask. If the whole intent of a resume is to impress the reader, I'll throw the question back at you. That failed project, is that going to impress the reader?
Uh,
Is that a yes
Sir,
or a
it
no?
depends. If they are
That
interested
you
in the
don't have
work that
time for it depends. Solomon, you do not have time for it depends, right? Which we're
yes,
going
sir,
to the next point with a hiring manager. Do hiring managers have a lot of time or do they have little time?
we have little time.
They have very little time, right? So this it
Yes, sir.
depends thing, they don't have it depends. Your job as the job seeker is to connect the dots, give them evidence that you can do a job. If the example that you just brought up earlier failed to you, failed to your managers, if it's not going to impress the reader, if you include it in your resume, it's a very easy decision. It shouldn't be on the resume.
Okay, sir.
Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Very good questions, by the way. I want to make this worth your time for the people who actually showed up for this live call. So I'm loving it that someone's asking questions, the Redbra is getting comments, and Yee's obviously getting her resume worked on right now. So were there any other comments from the rest of the other people? No? So I was trying to go with a train of thought from the previous question. This was actually connected to Naveen's question earlier about the cover letter, and then to Solomon saying that it depends. If you kind of know what's going on in your mind about that project and it's not going to impress the reader, like I said, it's a very easy, do not add it. So far, so good?
Yes, sir.
And then to the last point, to make the manager's job easier, it's best to structure, and I gave you two options here, and I actually checked the right box. We said to make the hiring manager, who's very busy, we want to make their job easier by giving them by giving the manager fast access to the relevant information that they need sooner versus later, because we do not want to waste their reading time. And Yi had the right idea in including a summary. However, for Yi's initial version, the summary wasn't giving the hiring manager what they needed in order to hire her, or she was doing a poor job at like highlighting herself. Because if Yi currently has some generic stuff, she's just saying she's master's in computer science and mathematics. She has solid analysis skills. She's not talking about her accomplishments and results. The summary that you're seeing is the reason why people say do not even include it, because it's generic stuff. If Yi kept to this, she's not standing out. Make sense?
Okay. Yes, sir. Sir. So you
Solomon,
mean
go
I
ahead.
should? So you mean in my resume I have to include a different paragraph showing my accomplishments in the above stated results, or should I include the accomplishments alongside the project and the results I previously stated?
Good question. And we'll actually address that as we move forward, because there's different ways to present this, but the guiding factor of this is that the people reading this, they're very busy. So the whole intent is to give them the information that they need to decide that they want to call you in for an interview sooner versus later. That's the deciding principle. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So Yi, I'm going to stop sharing right now, and let's take a look at Yi's work with her current resume after she and I had this conversation with these same things that we're talking about. So Yi, I'm going to stop sharing, and if you could please share.
Okay. Mm.
Can you make it a tad bigger, please?
Mm,
So if you guys notice, her summary is much more involved now than the previous one. And the conversation that Yi and I had originally was she needs to call out her accomplishments and results in whatever she's done so far, whether it be internship, whether it be coursework. And if you notice, Yi now says that she has solid analysis and problem solving skills, analyze social network. Do you guys notice what Yi's second sentence is talking about? She's saying that she actually analyzed the social network on Twitter and got 7,800 friend connections to show influence in different amounts of followers. This is obviously Yi's first pass at this, and it isn't actually worded like in the most optimal that gives the information, but Yi is getting the right idea in that she's writing down what her accomplishments are, right? Good shot with your 7,800 out there. And then she's saying she developed a simple database in C language, assign teamwork, and debug. She's got the right idea. The third one says develop a reporting system with the company's database and learn SQL. Okay, where she said she learned this by herself in the internship. What Yi is trying to communicate is that she took initiative during this internship and that she learned this stuff by herself. Okay, good. Other comments on the difference between what Yi has for this version versus the previous version. Let's hear comments from the other attendees.
Can I go ahead, Bernie?
Please.
So I see that the summary is almost totally changed. The way she represented the summary makes it like more oriented to the skills that she's looking for, to the position that she's going to apply for. Summary, that's what I think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Good observation.
Also she has applied all the action-oriented verbs like developing, analyzing, and then I see that there's a lot of other, like she has taken some action to get to that point. That's what I think of.
Yes, absolutely. Yi has definitely taken action since our previous conversation. Yi, if you wouldn't mind, please unshare right now because I want to share some resources for Solomon and Anujin and
oh, sure. Okay.
let's see here. The share screen. So I'm going into the LinkedIn group and under hashtag resume, you have all these 5 case studies out here. So what Yi is trying to emulate is the work that some of these students came by. Case study 5 better. We haven't gotten to the final version yet for Yi's resume, but she's trying to emulate some of these case studies that you see in resources. So this is a freshman. Do you guys read this?
Yes, sir.
So you know how Yi is trying to call out her specific results because we want to create something like this. Because remember, if hiring managers are very busy, what we're trying to do is give them the information that they want so that they know that you've accomplished something in the past so that you get the call to get an interview, right? So that's one example. Let me call out a second one here. I'm going to call out a case study. Let's say case study number 2 better. So you guys, after this call, feel free to go back to all this information because it's available to you 24/7. Mark is a computer science major as well, but has much more experience than Ben in the previous design. So notice how they have their summary. They're talking about kind of like similar to what Yi did, designed and executed algorithm in Python to find this. But notice how these guys aren't just describing what they did, but they're actually calling out results. Questions about that? So you guys can go back to this, but what I wanted to bring out to you guys is you have all these case studies, you have all these previous Zooms, but I want to bring your attention to this third bullet that says resume iteration. When you click this third bullet, it talks to you about the process as to what Yi is going through right now. Yi is going through some of this information. She went to #resume. She listened to at least one group shop. Now she's in this group workshop. She was studying cases 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the other thing that I want to show you guys is this. What happens is Yi and I have been going back and forth in the background, and Bernie has a scratch pad. I actually do this with the other students. I kind of like write down your current version of what you said, and then we try to make it look nicer or present it in a way that's like really short, that gets the message across and that communicates your accomplishments and results. So Yi and I, just to give you guys what the process involved is, you try to do the homework, you go into your own experience, and then you put stuff down, kind of like Yi has on that, and then you ask for my opinion as to like how we can package it so that you come out smelling the best, or that it's the best version that's presenting yourself. Questions?
Sir, my question is, if we are including the summary at the beginning, isn't that a lot of literature to like saying they might see I don't have time to read all this, something like that? Isn't it better to do it in points? Isn't it better to do it in points?
That part that we talked about, the resume, that it's your resume, it's your call. You can definitely decide what it wants to do. But I think the part that you miss is instead of waiting for the reader to go through the entire resume and look for those points that you're referring to, which are kind of like separated because we don't know which one are the best points about the person, or they're just kind of like secondary points with the person. The actual resume content is taking the responsibility over what the reader reads first. And we're putting all of that at the beginning of the resume. You don't have to do this, but it's a suggestion as to how you can give the information to the hiring manager sooner versus later. Did I kind of answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Good questions. Other questions?
So far, so good.
Cool, thank you. So I'm going to stop sharing. Let's please go back to your resume.
Okay, so
So she has her education, she has all that stuff. And what are you guys noticing in her bullets right now?
Can I go ahead?
Observations? Go ahead.
It's the same thing that I told before as well, action-oriented verbs about what she did. I mean, like I can see that there are 2 companies that she has mentioned about the internships and whatever processes, whatever things that she has accomplished that has been mentioned over there.
Yeah, but take a look at where she has assistant engineer intern in the second company, where it says completed 50 software installs / component and
Numbers.
equipment assembly and functionality tests, all in 1 month. Question to you guys: did Yi just give context to the hiring manager as to what she did for this particular task?
She proved it with numbers. That's what recruiters usually look for.
The numbers, it's not just any numbers, because I mean, I could put numbers, but it doesn't relate to what I said. What Yi did that was performed with the use of numbers was actually giving context as to by this is so great. She completed 50 installs that did both the installation and the assembly, and then she did tests, and all of this was completed in 1 month. Do you guys see the difference between the way Yi is thinking right now versus just describing that she completed software installs, equipment assembly, and functionality tests? That's probably what her original was.
Yes, sir.
Make sense, Solomon?
Sir, I do have a doubt. Is it good to include the numbers and be that direct?
How else would you do it?
Okay.
I guess I'm trying to understand your question more, Solomon. So what else did you have in mind? Remember, you're presenting this to a hiring manager who's very busy. So if you don't want direct, what manner are you proposing?
No, not that direct. I mean, like including numbers in brackets and something of that sort.
The
Yes.
brackets is a personal style. That's usually used so that you could highlight the number because it's very easy to see test in 1 month. If you just put the number 1, it's very easy to gloss over. By putting the parenthesis, it's a style thing that you can or cannot do. Totally up to you. It's your resume. But the intent of that brackets around the 1 month was so that you don't forget to see that she was talking about 50 software installations. She did this all in 1 month. Did that give you more context?
Thank you, sir.
You got it?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. Other questions? So let's go back to this, and I'm doing a time check right now, 1:33. So let's probably do one thing on use before we probably go to. Actually, go back to the top. So let's do one next thing for you. So MS Computer Science. Okay. So we're going to start scrubbing this right now. The word "and" is kind of like extra reading, quote unquote. I would possibly replace that with a slash because remember, this is being read by Yi. Can you make that change in real time?
Sorry,
Where you
can
say
you say
MS,
that again?
MS Computer Science and then slash BS Mathematics.
A slash?
Yes. I start getting a stickler with the stuff. And again, it's personal preference. You guys can or cannot do this. I would leave a space in between before and after. There's
Okay.
slash and then before the B space. All right. With solid analysis. Okay. So here's the thing that I want to ask from Yi because she included it twice already. How do I know that you have solid analysis and complex problem solving skills?
Yeah, I don't know how to show.
Didn't you already show it by saying that you analyze the social network, that you developed a reporting system? Doesn't that show that you already have problem solving skills?
Yeah, I think this result can show the
Correct.
analysis. Yeah.
So what I am driving at with the group that we have at hand right now is you're being redundant in saying that you have solid analysis and problem solving skills when the following sentences already talk about that. So if you're presenting this to a busy hiring manager, you're wasting their time. So what should we do with that part?
Just delete it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Are you guys following the train of thought as we work on this resume? Feel free to jump
Yes,
in anytime, Jen, okay? Analyze, okay, the words the, because she goes analyze the social network. The words the words an, the words this isn't a writing, a formal English lesson class. So don't be afraid to get rid of words like the. So you can just say analyze social network on Twitter.
Oh. Just make it.
And actually,
Social.
social network, you already know that Twitter is a social network. So by calling out social network, you're not telling the reader any additional information, right? So
Yeah.
can't we just directly say analyze Twitter? I hope you guys are getting something about this live work that we're doing. And you did this in the past to Solomon's question. Was it Solomon or was it Naveen earlier? It's past, right? So you say analyze Twitter.
Yes, sir, it's mine.
Yeah. So you put a D. It's in the past. Analyzed Twitter. And then instead of the word and, I would just say comma, analyze Twitter, comma, get rid of and. And since this is in the past, you got 7,800 connections. Get rid of the word friend because we know connections are connections. Got 7,800 connections.
Connection.
Am I sure? Got 7,800 connections. Okay, here's a question to the team. To show influence in different amounts of followers, is that contributing anything else to the reader?
No, sir. He has to state what she did that influenced the amount of followers rather than
Yeah.
saying she did so.
So what do you suggest, Solomon?
She can say, I formulated a new way of doing this, or I did this that attracted this amount of followers.
You're talking two different thoughts. I'm just working with the thought Yi has right now because she said she got 7,800 connections. So she's showing she knows through her formulas how to get the connections. The part I'm talking about is to show the influence in different amounts of followers. When you get 7,800, isn't that assumed?
Sir, I don't understand.
Yi, when you got 7,800 connections, doesn't that show that you have influence with different amounts of followers?
The connection is like on different people, and the total is the 7,800 connection.
Yeah,
And yeah, so include some people may have a big amount of followers, or some people has little amount of followers.
but that's what I'm saying. If you involve 7,800, is that okay? So you're trying to say that you're trying to point out that 7,800 has lots of followers or little followers. Does that matter to the reader of this resume?
Maybe I just want
Yes,
to
it
show.
does. Yes, it does. Because from the number, it really does.
Yeah. So when we say she got 7,800 connections, doesn't that imply that she's showing influence over different amounts of followers is the question.
Yes.
So we're being redundant. We just created an extra phrase that's already covered by the 7,800.
Oh, so I just need to say show the influence.
Well, by 7,800, that shows influence. Do you have to state it? By getting 7,800 connections, doesn't that imply that you have influence?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm saying is it's redundant.
Yeah.
So that means the end of the sentence. You see where I'm coming from? We kind of want to give them as much information as we need, but remember, these guys are very busy. If you're stating something that's already assumed or implied, but what you said earlier, you're wasting their time. Did you guys catch that? So you said you analyzed Twitter, but I'd like to add on what Solomon said. If you wanted to say something else about just analyzing Twitter, because you actually design a marketing attack or whatever it is that you design to get the 7,800 connections.
Yeah.
So what else can we add to analyze? So get rid of to show the influence in different amounts of followers can be got. You can delete.
So
So Solomon was bringing up earlier that you did more than just analyze.
mm,
You can't think of that right now. I realize it's kind of like a last minute. You're counting in front of other people. Think of additional stuff that you could add to the analyze Twitter. Okay.
yeah.
Does it make sense? Did you understand it so you can do it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh,
So you notice how we're cleaning stuff up. Okay. So what we're doing on Yi's resume, you're going to be applying to your resumes as well. So I'm going to go back to the people right now on the call. What we're doing, are there any questions about the process? Because I want you to understand the process.
Sir, I
Not
do
from
have a
my side.
question.
Sorry. Hello?
Not from my side though, Bernie. I'm good.
Okay, Narendra's clear, but Solomon sounded like he was going to say something.
Yes, sir. Based on her resume, she did like data analytics and other stuff. And it's quite direct on what she did. And most people can understand. But it depends, it might depend on the major and what you did during their internship. Like
You're
here,
absolutely right. You're
she
correct.
did, yes, she did something here that most people can understand, or like we can understand or can complement. But if you did something internship like transit, refine unit operations and refining like in different majors, how can we put it that the reader might be interested? Because the hiring manager might be interested in what you did on your field that impresses him that he's the right fit, be it an intern or full-time. So it's best that you might even see our resume so we can do work on that.
Yeah, you have 5 case studies that you can go to. I already showed you how to get there. And obviously your question does not apply to Yi's resume, but to address the process question that you have, you write down whatever the internship or whatever the task is. You call out, not just describing the task, but calling out your results that you accomplished within that. And you'll see some of these when you go to the 4 other case studies. And then when you capture it, you're doing the same process that we're doing with Yi's resume right now. And that does that communicate? And usually what this is it's based off of the job description that you're creating this resume for, or the jobs that you're applying for. Does that make sense, Solomon?
Yes, sir.
So in your case, if it's something specific to a different task that's totally different from Yi's field, yes, I agree with you. There's a certain way to present it because different fields obviously have different expectations. You always tailor it. Remember, we go back to the design principle. It's always about your reader. So different field, different reader.
Okay,
Make
sir.
sense?
Yes, sir.
Good question. Other questions or reactions? So Yi, where you have the cursor right now, you have an extra space.
oh,
There you go. You see how I'm teaching you guys that you can't be making these mistakes. So when you see it, take care of it immediately because you cannot have a resume that even just has 1 space. That's mistaken because that shows that you're not taking the time. I mean, because it's a cardinal sin for resumes to have any typo errors. Okay, so you guys noticed that I noticed that there was an extra space between the dot, and I called your attention to it. You guys really want to practice this habit as well when you're working on your resumes. So the part that says develop a simple database project with C language as a leader. So what I suspect Yi is trying to say out here is that she led a team. And actually, I think I worded this for you already, Yi. Was that in the bottom of the resume? Because I
Yeah.
remember writing something for you.
You showed
Yeah,
them the
actually, you want to copy the way I worded that, and that's the version that you put on top. So just for the purposes of this call, notice how I have led team of 3 with bug analysis, fixes, and code integration, and scroll back up, Yi. Back to
Yeah.
your summary. Back to the summary, please.
Oh yeah.
So what that replaced is what Yi is saying here. She said she developed a simple database with C language as a leader. She assigned teamwork and debug, and she developed a reporting system with the company's database using SQL. Well, maybe that part wasn't connected, but scroll back down to that led the team of 3.
Mm.
Actually, if you want to copy that entire bullet there,
It's a
Maybe-
copy this.
copy that right now.
to
And
this.
then plug it in to replace that whole thing. So I think the first bullet also was part of that, right? So you didn't clean this up by using my suggestions. You cleaned it up in the actual bullets, but you didn't change it in summary.
Yeah.
Okay. So I realized this call only goes to 150 and we have 8 other participants. If you have like a hot burning question and you have to leave, let me give you the floor. I'm going to stick around for the rest of this and finish this discussion with whoever is going to stick around. But I want to answer any questions from people who had to leave at 150. So let me just open up the floor really quick to
Oh, I need to stop share, right?
They may have a question about your resume, so let's just hear their question first. Narendra, Anujan, Arka, Jiwan, or Solomon. Solomon, I know, just jumps in whenever he has a question, so that's good. I want to give opportunity. Narendra was raising his hand, or was that from a previous?
Yes. No,
You have a
I raised my
question?
hand right now.
Yes, sir.
I just saw that there are like, can we use the same action words in the summary twice?
Good call. I wouldn't use it in back-to-back sentences, but using the same action word, you know, if I put it in the second sentence and I use it again in the fourth sentence, that could be fine.
Okay.
But I would definitely use a thesaurus if I could replace the word. It's obviously better not to be redundant.
Makes sense, Bernie. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know.
Was that good?
Yep. Mhm.
Okay. Other questions? No other questions?
Sir, I do have. On the education, she stated the relevant courses. If you are doing the courses presently, is it good to still state it there, or I shouldn't?
Should you state what?
The courses, like she stated in education, IIT and her major, then the relevant courses. So she state what she's doing presently or what she had done already.
Good question. A lot of students like to include courses or whatever. Direct answer to your question. If you don't have a resume that has a lot of information, sure, include course. Or if it's something that was specifically asked for in the job description, add it. Okay. But rule of thumb for a resume, again, it's being read by a busy hiring manager. So rule of thumb is it relevant? If your answer is no, go.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Very good questions. So obviously, Yi and I, this isn't the final version yet. We haven't gotten to that part. So that's going to be a conversation at some point in time. But yes, we notice that students like to include courses. And again, it's all about, sometimes it's about the student trying to be complete with the information. So what I just taught you guys today is always be thinking of the reader of your document. If it's relevant, i.e. it was in the job description, add it. If it's relevant because you don't have a lot of experience, but you want to give them the impression that you know of it, keep it. If it's not directly relatable because you have some experience, which is much, much better than the courses, get rid of the courses. So it's very situational. But the bottom line is it relevant to the busy hiring manager? Very good questions. Others. So I'm going to go back to Yi right now. So you didn't quite finish the work in incorporating all my comments from the previous into cleaning up the version that we have. So I think you have your work cut out for you, Yi, right?
Yeah.
Did you have any questions, specific questions, so that you could go on to the next version of your resume?
Because at
You're
the first
doing-
time
You're doing great, by the way. You know, from our
Thank you.
conversation, I could see you're applying the information that we're talking about. And this is the whole thing with resume. We're going back and forth as you apply the information. So I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, I just really appreciate it because I add many that result I did. And at the first time, I think maybe my summary is too long, too redundant. So yeah,
Yes.
that's the part I need to modify. And yeah, I think maybe the career log, I still need to.
Actually, can you share that with the screen right now? Yi is referring to yet another piece of content. She said career log. So could you please share that with the group that we have right now? Yi, please go to the LinkedIn group. Please go to the index and then show the group this career log that you're talking about. So they also know that they can use it.
Which part?
Yeah, thank you, Solomon. Thank you for joining us. This is going to be recorded for whatever, so feel free to listen to the recording. Thank you for your participation. Glad to have you.
Yes, sir.
You
So
said,
go ahead and share your screen with the group, Yi, so that everybody else knows what you meant by career log. Jiwon and Anujin, let us know if you have other questions because this call is about you guys, okay? If something's not clear or if everything's clear, that's good.
yeah.
So you go to the LinkedIn group, please, because you're still sharing your screen.
This
Illinois Tech Career Services group.
group, right?
You want to unshare? I'll do it.
Do you guys see the?
No, we're seeing your resume still.
Oh, this.
There you go. Great. So everybody, when you're in the LinkedIn group, show them how to find the index, please. Okay, click the index.
This thing. Which part?
It's usually a comment. Keep scrolling down until you find one because it's all over the place. There you go. We do that on purpose so that you can find it. So she's going to hashtag resume right now. And she's in the section hashtag resume and she's scrolling down to career log. She's talking about this content. and now connect it for what they were saying. So we were talking about the bullets that Yi had, and she said that she needs to go back to this content to do what?
Yeah,
G1, she won't share you the link because the whole purpose of this is I want you to be able to go around in the group and find the index and navigate this around. Okay. Once you find it, by doing that, then you can say the link. But we're being very specific about painfully going through the process so that if you're studying until 2 o'clock the following morning, you know how to find it. So we're doing that on purpose, G1. But thank you for your comment. So actually, no, go back to the check marks on top. Yi.
Yeah.
Yes. So whenever you guys are thinking of the bullets, whether you're describing internship experience or you're describing class experience because you don't have real work experience, hint, just in case for some of the listeners right now, if you don't have any actual internship experience and all you have is coursework, one of the strategies is to frame the work that you did in the classroom like you would frame a job experience. I repeat, if you guys do not have actual internship experience, one of the strategies is to frame your classwork as work experience. So the reason we're on the screen that Yi has you guys on right now is whenever we're thinking of the bullets to describe internship experience or class experience, instead of simply describing the task, you want to think $say. Well, if it's not a real job, there's probably no $say, but there's workflow time reduced, there's process controls reduced, there's process improvements created. So what Yi was saying earlier was she needs to go through this list so that she can jog her memory so that she could think of her experience in the experiences she was trying to highlight and think of the accomplishments and the results that she has for either classroom work or internship work. Questions? Good question, Jiwan. Jiwan said, then do I write my classwork in the internship experience? I will go back to the design principle because as he said, I do not have any work. Yes, absolutely. Very good question, Jiwan. So let me go back to the design principles of the busy hiring manager. And it goes back to the design principles of students are very good at following the templates and keeping the templates. So in your case, G1, there could be a section that says education, and there could be a section that says experience. In your case, it's one and the same because you don't have actual experience. So from the standpoint of the busy hiring manager, you probably just want to create one thing, and it depends. I don't know what your exact details are, but the whole guiding principle would be to make it easier for the reader, the busy hiring manager, to find out what it is that you did. So we may have to like massage the way your resume looks like based on the education or the classwork or the other experience that you have. And that's why each resume is kind of like tailored to the student based on what it is that we're trying to highlight with your specific background. Did that make sense, G1? Was that clear? You didn't quite respond to that. New message. Yes, you mean I should focus more on education? No, what I meant was you should focus more on experience. Okay, it's a very pointed question, but I don't want to like just answer it with like a blind answer. I really don't know what else is in your resume. Okay, so you may have an education section with just your degree, and then you may have an experience section that probably has your classwork as experience. I don't know what you currently have. All I'm saying is that however you decide to package it, You want to make it simple for the reader. So G1, you and I may need to talk about your specific case if that didn't address it. Was there a follow-up question or other questions from the group? Otherwise, I go back to Yi Yi if she has any other questions for the next step for her resume. I didn't hear from Anujin.
Yeah.
G1, obviously you participated. And Yi Yi, did you have any other questions about your specific resume?
I think no, yeah, I think I just want to go through again.
Okay.
With, yeah.
Sounds good. And if you have any other questions, if you're not connected to me on LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn, because if Yi Yi remembers a question after we hung up from this call, she's sending me a LinkedIn message. So feel free to do the same. So let me officially close this recording out so I can stop it, and then I'll stick around for any additional questions for you guys. Thank you so much for attending today's resume session. I will end the recording and then we'll open it up to any other questions. Yi, you may have to stop sharing.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay, stop recording.